Welcome to the Friends of FEADies podcast, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner ISED, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. This show is all about celebrating the incredible journeys of female entrepreneurs in the agri-food and food manufacturing sector. We're here to dish out the secrets of success and serve up a side of inspiration along the way. We are the Feed program where dreams are made, businesses are born, and the agri-food world is your oyster. Let's dine together. Today is a special one. Ashlyn Newlove is back on the podcast 1 year after our last conversation, and we're doing something I love, a real check-in, because growth looks very different from inside than it does the outside. Ashlyn is the founder of SmartSip, and over the last year, her business has evolved, expanded, and stretched in ways we're going to unpack today. Welcome back, Ashlyn.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to kind of dive in and let's just kind of start at the beginning. What's kind of changed and maybe surprised you the most about building SmartSip over the last year?
You know what? I had a really clear vision of what I wanted to do with it. So honestly, nothing was super shocking. It did, like the growth that happened was kind of what I had for my goal. I thought that realistically, I could do over 200K for my first year in sales. I'm not quite at my 1 year yet, and I am almost at my 200K, so I will be well above that. And yeah, I've done some, added another SKU, working on an entirely different. Maybe that's the one thing that surprised me the most. I really fell in love with the process of creating. So now I have the creamer lines, and now I have 3 flavors in the creamers, but I'm also working with the food center on an entirely new product complementary to the creamers, and I have recently just started telling people what it is. So it's a powdered syrup that has collagen in it, so people are going to be able to build like their super drinks or their super foods that are going to have their fiber and their collagen in it. So yeah, that was probably the most something that definitely I didn't think was going to be as big of an impact on me. Is I just fell in love with coming up with new ideas and new things. I've always loved marketing, so none of that changed. There are a few things that I don't love during the process, but I mean, I wanted to bootstrap as much as I could this first year, as well as grow organically as much. I wanted to see how much I could do myself without advertising and without, reaching out for more money from investors or banks than I did from my initial startup capital. So yeah, and as it went as I expected, and I know people are like, yeah, but how did you know that? But I was just so confident in my target audience, in my product, that I was just like, I know that this is what I can sell this year.
So do you think that a lot of that, or some of that, comes from you already had a bit of a built-in audience in a way maybe other founders might not? Do you think that's kind of a big piece of it, or is that just one of the factors?
No, that is the piece of it. So because I had already connected with my target audience as a nutrition coach, and a lot of them were following me for, wellness and weight loss tips, and they also really wanted yummy tasting macro friendly foods that were going to help them reach their goals. So they always wanted to know what I was eating, what I was recommending to my clients. So my target audience from my nutrition coaching business was from that. And I mean, it's not like people could be like, oh, well, she's lucky that she had that. I still started from nothing when I started my nutrition coaching business. So it still all takes process and time. I still built that business to like a 6-figure nutrition coaching business that I've now left to do SmartSip full time. So everybody has to start somewhere with it. And people are like, well, I don't know what to do with social media. I didn't know what to do either, but I still kept showing up for myself. And I do think a lot of people don't put the effort into social media marketing that they should. And it's like, I can grow a business, and not just SmartSip. I could grow a business just from using my phone. So it's definitely an undervalued way of marketing that some businesses just aren't tapping into.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's talk a little bit over the last year. What has grown for you? Obviously revenue, but I assume also like retail locations, production probably. Have you added to a team at all, or is it still just you?
No, and I'm still, so the whole goal when I did this was I wanted to apply for Dragon's Den, and I wanted to be able to go in there with numbers being like, I have done this on my own, um, like investment, grown it organically without paying for advertising. And I found those were just like really like cool qualities that I don't know, that made me maybe stand out a little bit different. And because, why would they let me on the show just as a, like, I just auditioned last weekend for it. And why will they choose me? I was 10 months into my business. That doesn't seem like a huge viable business for investors, but that was important to me, is that I wanted to show them how I could grow it with essentially nothing. So, those were some of the things that I actually talked about with them. Like I think that was super commendable, and it's not to me saying that if you use advertising to grow your business that's not, because I definitely need to do that this coming year, right? Like I can bootstrap it and grow it organically only so far. But I am in 24 locations now. And again, those grew organically too. I don't have a distributor yet. I did just attend the CHFA in Vancouver, um, 2 weekends ago. So I have been chatting with some distributors. So we're gonna, roll out a distribution plan for Canadian retailers. And actually, most of my retailers are in Saskatchewan because I still have a large following from Saskatchewan. So all of those retailers have found me on social media and reached out that way. So again, super cool. I haven't been out, soliciting stores or anything. Again, not that that's not a bad thing, but I wanted to be able to go to Dragon's Den saying that people found me organically. And yeah, so 24 stores. I just set up, yeah, three more yesterday. That took me to the 24. Um, I have sold, yeah, almost 7,000 bags of SmartSip so far. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool. My goal was like to get to like around that 10,000 bag mark. I did do my second and third production runs, because the second one was simply because I had sold out of vanilla flavored. I was out and sold out about a week or so before my next production run, which was also pretty cool to be able to be like, to put it sold out on the website. You could not get it if you went to, I think at that time I probably had around 17 stores. You could still go and had some on their shelves, but that was also like a milestone, my first sellout. And then in January, I did another production run because I launched my caramel cloud flavor. So with those two production runs there, I almost doubled what I did for my very first production run in like bag size. So I grew, yeah, I grew that production. I do still have, like, I have between a couple different co-manufacturers that I use, and just depending on, kind of where it's going or what regulations that the plant needs to have, if it's going to be carried in like certain grocery stores, which again, that's in this like upcoming phase. So I'm also in the next couple months getting on Amazon. So that's also what's happening right now, because I really, like when I'm like, oh, I'm going to do one thing, I'm going to do 20 things all at once. So I'm going to expand distribution with a distributor to more retail stores. I'm going to get on Amazon. And yeah, hopefully in the next 6 weeks or so, find out if they liked me on Dragon's Den and record that if I get invited. So it's been 2026 so far has been a fun and exciting year.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean, it's so early in the year, so there's obviously a lot of room to grow. And yeah, we've had some founders that, audition for Dragon's Den, and like maybe you'll get on first time, it happens. And if not, it's like you can go back and the next time and audition again, because like there's always different angles you can kind of come and pitch yourself to them.
Totally, and different revenue growth and things like that. And it also just depends where I'm at in my business at that time, because if I've already taken on other investors to grow, it's like Dragon's Den is more for the marketing and for the mentorship, I find. Capital is something that actually isn't that hard to raise. Like it's the same as like getting into grocery stores. Everybody thinks it's like the be all and end all of your product, like becoming popular, and it's like it's not that hard to get into a grocery store. The hard part is making sure it's moving off the shelves. And without like education and brand awareness and things like that, your product can sit on the grocery store shelves. So while consumers find that, they find Dragon's Den super exciting, they find being on grocery store shelves super exciting, as the business owner is actually probably like one of the not as exciting things, because yeah, you're like, I can go in if I ever got onto Dragon's Den and ask them for $100,000, and people are like, "You got an investor? That's so exciting!" It's like, well, there's angel investors that are out there. You can do like investing from your customers. Like you can do kind of like crowdsource investing from your current customers. And I know lots of businesses who have done it that way. And who is more invested in you than your current customers? So, yeah, capital and getting into grocery stores aren't the two hardest things. Growing brand awareness, moving product off shelves, and those are those are the two hardest things, I say.
Yeah, I had another entrepreneur on here not too long ago, and she made the comment. Lots of times people think getting on shelf is the finish line, like you're successful now, but really and truly, that's when the hard work. She said that's when the work begins, is when once you get on shelf, because it's not just getting on shelf; it's like getting movement off the shelf and being able to prove that you are like a heavyweight in your category and you're like making a difference when you're on that shelf.
For sure. And your whole like business changes at that point, because right now, right, when customers purchase directly from me, the margin goes to myself. When they're purchasing from a grocery store, okay, so I've given them the wholesale discount. Um, if I am working with a distributor, they're taking their percentage. If you are in a store that's requiring listing fees, now you've paid to be on that shelf, and there's not a lot of dollars left over. So people don't realize that, yeah, somebody's product on the shelf might be, let's say, worth $28, but they may only be making a few bucks off of it. So at that point, it comes down to volume. So you need to be like triple, quadrupling what I've done in my current year, selling directly to my customers, than growing on grocery sales. And people like, love to be like, oh, I'm in 300 stores. And it's like, that isn't even the hard part, because you can get on those stores easily, but now you got to make sure it's moving, because you need to be selling volume in order to be making money. And it's like, maybe shipping costs to your distributor so they can ship it off. And now maybe you're doing free fills at the grocery store where you're having to give them free products. And people don't understand that actually being in a grocery store is like not even my top goal. Because like my roll-up plan would be like smaller stores, like mom and pop stuff. I'm not interested in paying listing fees right now, because I don't find that beneficial at this stage of my business. And yeah, like you can get charged for anything, especially in bigger grocery stores. Like let's say that you had a drop off time at a certain hour and your delivery driver was late, you're getting charged for that. Let's say the distributor that you're using, like they sell out of all of your product and you're supposed to have your shipment there, you're getting charged for that. So it's like you're getting nickeled and dimed everywhere, and people wonder why it's so hard to grow in food and beverage in Canada. It's like there's so many costs involved in it.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that retail thing can't be your only plan, or if it is, like you said, you got to do a lot, because it's so much more expensive than I think a lot of people realize.
Yes, very much so. And that, which means like you need to have cash flow to be able to increase your production, to be able to meet the needs of being in a whole bunch of stores, if you're going to do the volume to make your
To make it
few
worthwhile.
bucks a bag. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm very curious. What are some of your kind of like top moments of the year, or like kind of like highlights that you're most milestone highlights you're most proud of?
Oh, well, Anybody who follows me on social media knows that I had a tough 2025. Some of the best moments and some of the absolute worst moments in my entire life. Like everything that we I did with SmartSip was incredible. I was so proud of it, but like two of my dogs died, my dad passed away, and I'm trying to navigate a new business where, I am negative dollars into trying to grow that and stay present for it. So that was one of the biggest things that, for myself anyways, I'm not a person who would grieve in the fact that I would just like curl up in my bed and not like, for me, distraction does help with the grieving process. It doesn't mean I'm any less sad than anybody else whose dad died, but for me it was a good distraction. But I was also nominated for Product of the Year award through BC Food and Beverage. I recently was chosen as a top 8 finalist to pitch at CHFA in Vancouver for their launch pad. So the entire conference is there listening to you pitch. You know, like I guess just seeing like a little recognition for your hard work, and it really goes a long ways. And I think those are the things that I'm the most proud of. So not even, yeah, of course I'm proud of the sales, but I knew I could do that. But the feeling of having people come behind you, like my customers are dedicated. They are ride or die. They love being a part of the process, and I share it all on social media with them. I will ask them for their opinions. So, like for instance, the name of the caramel cloud flavor that came from one of my followers who suggested it. So I was like, I take their suggestions into consideration. Everything. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, I have final say, but I'm not like I'm not my customer. They are the people purchasing it from me. So I want to be able to include them. And yeah, just seeing the fact that they've really gotten behind it when it's like people can be like, oh my gosh, like I was talking to a friend the other day, she's like, I've got this business idea. And I was like, what is it? She's like, oh, I'm not really like ready to tell anybody. I was like, it's not going to sound silly. I had the dream to make a powdered coffee creamer. Like people probably thought that that was insane. And so no business idea is too silly if there's a market for it. But yeah, I think for myself, it is just the excitement that other people feel and the belief that they have in me and in the product.
Yeah, oh, that's great. So, I mean, it sounds like obviously hit the ground running. There's a lot of things that have been going on. Was there any milestones that took longer than you expected?
Food and beverage, everything takes longer than expected. Like even when I initially launched, I thought I was going to be like I told all my followers and stuff like the year before, and it ended up taking 13 months before I had the product. I was like, oh, that took way longer than I expected. And then when we were even creating the new flavors, I was like, okay, we know exactly what we're doing. We just need to like do the flavors. Like we've been working on it for months. We've come up with the caramel cloud, and I still have two that are in R&D. Like I was like, okay, I think that is just we just have to align expectation and reality. Everything just takes way longer. The other thing is I have samples coming for the new powdered collagen syrup this week. But I'm like, okay, we've got the first samples, but it's like, okay, what's gonna happen when I taste it? Am I gonna like the flavor? Am I gonna like the mixability? And then that means going back to the food center and working with, I always call her my recipe scientist because that's how people like understand, you know, a product
What they
development
do?
specialist. Yes, working with her to tweak the things that we've come up with. And obviously, she knows me much better now than when we first started. So she kind of knows like what I like for taste and like when we're conversing about things. She just really understands it. She knows that I appreciate the opinions of even other people in her office or colleagues. I'm like, have them taste it, see what they think, and then she'll send it off to me. So yeah, we do really vibe now, and I do think that takes a little bit of time too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So for the new products and stuff, it is the same person that you were working for when you initially developed a SmartSip?
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that that's like important that we have that connection for as long as we can. Like, I don't know if she'll work at the food center forever, but it just like I find personally it really just aligns the product in. And that's not to say that someone else, couldn't, if she ever left, slide into her role well, but I like that sense of connection, and I have learned that over these last 11 months is, well, I guess now it's kind of been like 2 years since I started, but that sense of connection to me is one of the most important things, and I want that in, when I'm working with the plant, in the manufacturing. Like, I text like the people that own the plant here, and they're like the person who manages it. Like, we're on a, we text back and forth, so I'm like very involved in the process. It makes me feel better because I'm a little type A. Like, I don't want to say like I'm crazy type A, but I like to know what's going on. And it's like, well, if I've spent $50,000 on something, and to a lot of businesses, they're like, oh, I wish I was still in the day of spending $50,000. Like, I understand that I'm still very small, but it's like, to me, that's so much money. I want to be like, I need to know everything that's going on with that production. And so, yeah, it's the same as, working with my recipe scientists. Like, we're in communication a lot. I also find that, like, when I'm now meeting with distributors, I want a smaller one. People are like, oh, you'd be a good fit with this large national brand distributor. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I don't want to be a number in a catalog. I want to be like, we are like in this together. So yeah, that is by far to me what I like the most. And maybe that's like the small town in me coming out, that I love, just being so connected. And it's probably because I have such a good connection with my social media followers too. We are our own little community. So yeah, kind of like community above all else when it comes down to like my business.
Oh, that's great to hear. And yeah, I just kind of that comment you made about distributors and stuff too. It's like you don't want to be someone's smallest account. Like, you don't want to be the one that they kind of like put on like the very back burner. You want to know that you're a priority, and I think that obviously then opens up more opportunities for smaller players to like go above and beyond in that way, and like, helping each other grow.
For sure. And just because I want to work with a smaller distributor doesn't mean I'm going to have a small, like, it'll be a small impact with my distribution. But like, yeah, I met one that has like 10 brands. I met one that has like 30 brands. And then there's others that have hundreds of brands. And it's like, how am I going to be at the top of their mind when they're going into their retailers and talking to them that, oh, you know what, this product might be a really good fit for your store. So yeah, and because I am doing so well with direct to customer, the rollout of distribution doesn't have to be, you know, I'm not as panicky about it as maybe somebody else might be. Like, holy, I got to get moving this product quickly because, I need like cash flow. The other thing that people don't realize with things like distributors and large groceries, like, you're on terms with everybody. You're sending your product there for no money, and they're paying you. You might have a 30-day term with them, then you're getting paid 45 days later. So if you need cash flow, that is not coming from there. If you need money right now, it is not coming from that line. Like, I do have most of my distributor or my retailers right now aren't on terms because they're like smaller stores and things like that. And again, that is why I'm able to do that with them, because again, that cash flow at this point in my business is important.
I've heard that from some entrepreneurs too, that that's the hard thing is with grocery and stuff. They don't necessarily cut any, like, make it easier for the smaller players, like, a Nestle or someone. They can wait to get that money. It doesn't affect them. They have so much to go. So it's hard that it's still it's a big thing for any small business owner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially, I would even say probably within the first few years, until, like, for me, I know that my bank account needs to get to at least plus $15,000 before I can do another production run. That'll drain me right to the bottom of my $25,000 line of credit. And that is kind of where I live right now. I just live in, I'm just very comfortable at being in debt. And a lot of people get anxious about that. And so many people are like, oh, you just got to be comfortable with it. I'm like, I am comfortable with it, but it is nice. Like when I was like starting to see money on the plus side of things, I was like, this feels good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's still the goal, but it is a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around sometimes.
Yeah. And I think two people don't realize that even though you could be your bank account showing in the negatives, that you're actually a profitable business. That's another thing. You could be like making money, your business can be making money, making a profit, and you could still be cash flow positive, but also in the negative. And I was like, I don't even understand that. Like I had to get my accountant to like explain all of that because like a friend who is really curious and is a business person themselves and does accounting too, they were like, are you cash flow positive? And I was like, I don't know.
Let's find out.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna ask.
That's funny. Okay, so since our episode a year ago to now, is there anything that you're worrying less about when it comes to your business?
I mean, obviously, when you before you first launch, you are worried if people are gonna like the product. You're like, well, I like the product, and I taste tested it with some family and friends, but are the masses gonna like the product? And my product has a little bit of stevia in it, and I did a blend so that like the stevia aftertaste wouldn't be as prominent. I'm like, oh, and I know that's going to turn some people off who have sensitivities to it. So like there was obviously some long nights where I like would lay awake worrying about things like that. And until I had a really good first month, like I did 30K the first month, and a lot of people are either one just buying it because they were following me and they were curious about it, or they simply just wanted to support my business, right? They just wanted to be like, this is your new business, I'm going to order some. And it's like, after that first month, I was like, okay, but now I have to see who's reordering. And that's where the proof will lie, is if people are buying. And then once like multiple orders started rolling in and their cart size is like 3 to 5 bags, like I have a customer, I am just approaching I'm just wrapping up month 11 right now, and she's ordered 10 orders and 3 to 5 bags in every order.
Wow.
Like that's a lot of creamer. Like she's ordered more than some of my smaller retailers
Oh
have.
my goodness. Okay, I'm guessing she's giving some of that away because otherwise she is just only
Well, I don't,
consuming SmartSip, maybe.
if you're a big coffee drinker though,
Yeah, that's
what
true.
if you're having multiple cups in a day? Like there's 30 servings in a bag, but if you're having
Four or
few
five.
cups a
Yeah.
day, right? That's maybe 10-day supply. How big is your tablespoon? Is it a heaping tablespoon? So, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty cool to see that growth.
Hmm.
And you go from and like even you're like worried about, I don't know, like regulations. And the nice thing about working with professionals in creating your product is that they're following all CFIA regulations, and like there's no wiggle room with anything I'm like, hey, like, can we use monk fruit? I'm like, is there a way that we'd be able to switch the stevia to a monk fruit? And yeah, my recipe scientist, her name's Danielle, she's like, no. I was like, okay, just wanted to check. And so then people will ask me like, oh, why'd you choose stevia? I'm like, well, it's one of the most natural sweeteners that there is for a low calorie sweetener. And they're like, well, why didn't you use monk fruit? I was like, it's not regulated in Canada. And they're like, yeah, but here there's Boost at CHFA and their products are being sweetened with it. I was like, either they're not a Canadian product, like from the US, which is crazy to me that US products can be imported and sold that are sweetened with monk fruit, but Canadian producers can't use it in their foods. I said they're either an American brand or they are not CFIA regulated right now. And if they ever got caught, like all of your product is getting recalled, that's a huge cost. a huge cost. So that's always one thing. It's just like, I really wanted to make sure, I got the food center review all my packaging for me because I didn't want to have that recall because it just, you're always kind of like a little scared of like things costing you money. So, you know, I don't want to screw up on packaging or, anything like that because, to have it recalled for whatever, it would be devastating as a business like mine that's in those first stages.
Yes, so it's nice to have that partnership and like those experts that can like give you a little bit of just a bit of peace of mind on some of those things. Just because, yeah, there's so much that people don't know going into this, and it's like, how are you going to know? It's like, well, you got to find someone who does know that can help you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I always, like any business that I've ever been in, I always had a mentor. And it's no different in this because you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's probably what makes the most successful, people in this industry is that they're not afraid to ask questions, which is also another great thing about this industry. Food and beverage owners are the best for giving advice. They remember what it was like to be in the trenches. And then it's kind of like your rite of passage when you got some knowledge to like pass it on to the next person. So for instance, I'm being interviewed for a founders growth club, and the people who run it, like the one they're both in CBG, but one's a skincare brand and one's a cleaning product brand. So they don't have somebody that knows, like has some insights on food and beverage. So they have given me so much help, and I was like, hey, if any of your people have questions about food and beverage, like I will give all of that help. I need to pay it forward now because everybody has been so helpful. So yeah, that is the great thing about food and beverage owners is that they generally like will help if they can.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, I've definitely witnessed that as well. And that's so great to hear. So I had a question that was, okay, what are you worrying less about now? Let's look at the opposite side of things. Is there anything you're worrying about more now than when you started?
Like at the end of the day, you're always anything could happen. Something could happen to your supply chain. Something could happen to your manufacturing. And the biggest thing that I try to tell myself is like, don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. Like you think, okay, I was just talking to another uh, brand owner and she makes barbecue sauces and she started with a new co-manufacturer and she sent all her ingredients there and the co-manufacturer didn't clean the lines before putting her ingredients in and she'd made salsa for someone before this, so it ruined like $20,000 worth of ingredient. That is something that like before production, like if they mixed my recipe wrong and it had not enough or too much of one ingredient, like that's nerve wracking to me. um like what if like because mine's a powder product, I'm always like, okay, are the humidity levels where that plant is located going to affect like how like the mixability of the product. um you never know. Like another brand owner I was talking to, they got a cease and desist letter on Christmas Eve. I mean, the cease and desist didn't, it didn't have a leg to stand on, but it's like all of these things can happen, and you could lay awake every single night thinking about things that haven't happened yet that could happen. Like, what if my one supplier stops making this ingredient and they're the only supplier that makes it? How am I going to rectify that? So those are definitely things that I think more about now. At first, I was like, I hope people like this and that I'm able to sell it. And now it's like, ugh, what if something happened and you're now scrambling, either like money wise or you don't have a certain ingredient that you need? Those are the things that I worry about now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely fair. And yeah, it's a hard line sometimes of like, you want to be as prepared as possible, but also there's only so many things in life you can control. So kind of trying to find that balance can be hard sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess kind of along the same vein, similar vein of questioning, in terms of like running the business, like kind of is what feels easier or harder than kind of when you got started?
Well, like when I first initially started, I thought that I was just going to start with an Amazon only product. Like I wasn't going to do like direct to customer. And I like for that, I was like, what, like, again, that was me worrying, like, what if people don't like it? And then it hurts your feelings if somebody complains about something. And I was like, you know what, I'll just go straight to Amazon. You go to Amazon, you're making much, much less because they take quite a large percentage. And I was also like, okay, you know, if I'm ever away, then orders are still getting sent out. Whereas now, like, I do come back to Saskatchewan so quite often, and you know, I do a big market there every year, or every year. It's been my first year every year. I did go to it 3 times this past year though. So right, and then I'm away for like a week at a time, so orders aren't being sent out. So I was like, okay, I'll be an Amazon business. And then when I did a cohort here in Victoria, they were like, why wouldn't you sell D2C, like, or direct to your customers? Like, you can make way more money doing that, and you're going to need the capital of it. Yeah, it might be less stress, less work, but I feel like that's a better route. And like, I sat down and I thought about it and I ran numbers and I was like, yeah, they're right. And then I actually learned that like I kind of like filling the orders and seeing what's coming in and who's buying it and filming content around it. So yeah, so that was definitely something that I had has kind of like evolved over that. And then it's like I kind of assumed I would get it like a distributor, but now I'm like, well, it makes more sense for my retailers to buy direct from me because again, right, then I'm not paying a distributor their percentage on that, and like I can keep my margins, like, you know, give a little bit more to the retailers themselves so they can make a little bit more money too. So yeah, I think, I guess just like you think that your business is going to go one way, and then I look back and I'm like, oh, yeah, that wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing, but this way totally worked. And I'm really glad that I ended up going this route. And it's not that either way are wrong. Like, and that's another important thing to remember. And people who are listening to this will like, well, that's great. It worked for you. She has social media followers. It's like, if Amazon is what you want to do, it's not the wrong answer either. If, you know, getting a distributor and doing, you know, big grocery and wholesale across the country is what you want to do, that's not a wrong answer either. This is just what worked for me and in looking back. But now the one thing I have noticed too is like I had that mindset that I was gonna like make smaller margins and just like base it more on volume. And then when I did the reverse, now I find I have a little bit tougher of a time seeing the value in distributors, and I have to get comfortable with like making less money on it. And it's like I could have a very comfortable like lifestyle brand if I wanted to do this on my own and send out orders myself all the time. Like it could be a very good business for myself, but that's not what I want. I want to be a national brand, and there's no way that you're going to be a national brand without the distribution, without getting comfortable making way less money on selling your product, but then just focusing on the volume.
So I had one more question that I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit here before we wrap up. And I was just curious, is there any decision, like a decision you made over the past year that you, if you could redo it or like make it differently, is there anything that you would go back and change, or has kind of things panned out the way that they were meant to, or you wanted them to?
Yeah, I don't think I have any regrets really. I mean, if you have regrets, you're just reliving and beating yourself up about something. Like I can't go back and change any decisions that I've made, but there's been nothing like major that has happened. And and I think that's obviously been a blessing, but that is not to say that something couldn't happen in the future. But you learn from mistakes, even if you made them, and like when I do look back on things that maybe like cost me a little bit more money, or if I knew a little bit more about the industry or how things worked, but I didn't. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't beat yourself up about it because I do rely a lot on the help of others, and I do accredit a lot of the knowledge that I have from working with people at the food center. And like I will always be on like team food center because they just have helped me so much. And I like when I was at CHFA, I got to meet people in real life, which was nice. And like, they like that people that have helped me with grants for things. So I know that maybe working with the food center that it wouldn't work for everybody, but it's definitely, I can't say enough good things because yeah, I literally know nothing and I am more than comfortable saying that. But I was talking to my husband last night and he's it made me laugh because now like he works in the oil industry, so he's like, oh yeah, like now that you have a few more SKUs and then you can look at this distribution. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've been spending too much time in the food and beverage industry talking about SKUs and using like the language of it, because it's like that is not his forte at all. But I also made him come work my booth with me, and he knows enough about the product and the process and everything now, even though he's not a part of my business, that he can talk to retailers and distributors and it's all good. But I just like, I look back at our lives even a year ago and I'm like, wow, how things have changed. And I am really grateful for everything and the way that it has rolled out. And there hasn't been any, major things. Yes, some wasted money here and there, but I do a lot of research and I accredit that to, if you're doing your research, you can't just rely on other people to tell you what's doing. You still have to be doing research and you still have to be asking questions, and that's probably the biggest thing that, and it kills me sometimes when people are like sliding into my DMs being like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm 5 years into my business and I just got my first retailer." And it's like, you cannot compare, even though you're 5 years in the business and I'm coming up on my 1 year, you can't compare it. It's like, you don't know what goes on in my life. And like, I don't know what you were doing over these last 5 years. I was really driven to grow this brand because I truly believed that it could be something. So, I think, like at the end of the day, and this is another thing because whole the world of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the things that I hate the most because it can make you feel the worst about yourself than any other thing. And it's like if there is something like that's making you feel less than, or that, like, because you could be like really happy about a milestone in your business and then you go on LinkedIn and be like, see somebody is like, I'm 2 years into business and I just hit my $1 million in revenue. It's like, you don't know what those people were doing. Maybe they spent $500,000 in advertising, like, so it's like, don't follow the things that make you feel any less than about your business. And that's the same thing too. It's like, you follow me on social media, you're like, she's in 20 some stores, which is not that much, by the way. Like, that is like small potatoes. And I just got into my first store. If it's making you feel less than, you gotta cut that out of your, you gotta mute that stuff. You gotta hide that. You can't be seeing anything that's gonna make you feel any less about your milestones. And I'm a firm believer in that. I'll do it if I'm like, ugh, I feel like disappointed in my business if I see something like that on my feed. It's like, no, you don't have time for that negativity in your life. So yeah, so while there isn't any like major regrets, like, I just, that's not to say bad things don't happen to good people at some point in their business, but I've just been thankful that everything has kind of followed the path that I had set out for that.
I love to hear that, and that's such great advice for people. The old saying, like, comparison is the thief of joy. It's like, all right, let's look at what we're doing as opposed to kind of comparing to someone else, because like you said, it's like you've been privileged and set yourself up in a way that you can dive into SmartSip full time. And a lot of people aren't able to make that work. So having a full-time effort behind a business is going to lead to more growth than someone who's doing it part-time, assuming you're doing things effectively.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that's a huge thing. You do not know what is going on in that person's life, right? I don't have kids, so I can put a lot of effort into this. And it's like, okay, well, your business is making no money. Like, how do you have money? I'm like, I have a supportive husband and those things. And it's like, he also truly believes in my business too. Like, there's no better feeling than when you have that somebody that fully stands behind your business. And my family all does too. Like I said, if you follow me, you'll see my father-in-law taping boxes for me. My mom makes, like, I do keep a little bit of SmartSip at her house. She'll drop orders off to some retailers in Saskatchewan for me. And like, but again, they truly believe in the business and they want to help and be there for me. And I like value that. So you don't know, like, if you're a person who's doing everything on your own and you have kids and you have to work a full-time job, so this is only your side job. It's like, I was able to finally like close down my nutrition coaching business in December, right? I was doing 2 jobs until December, and now I'm solely focused on growing this business. And like you said, and you can't compare somebody's chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20 because you have no idea what the pages are in between. And yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing. And I think it's also important to be like, well, she's like lucky that she's got that for her husband. It's like, it's also not luck. Like, you do work pretty darn hard on this business and growing it and making the connections that I need to and making sure it's being marketed. And like, I did like 20 local markets last year. Like, that is like me hawking my stuff into the, you know, an outdoor, like, I've got a lot of like streets, like markets that are set up on like in the middle of a street or like in the middle of a parking lot, or some that were, it was like 35 degrees out and I'm standing there handing out at that time like iced coffee samples. It's like, that stuff's not fun, but I committed to doing it, and it also really helped in the growth of the business as well. So it hasn't been like, oh my God, everything's so easy, because it wasn't. And I can't like discredit the amount of effort that I've put into it. But again, you still also have to keep in mind all those other factors that can be playing a role in someone's success. And I am very grateful that I have the support system that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's about taking advantage of the opportunities you do have. And yeah, and one of them being like taking the time to come onto this podcast. So I really appreciate you taking the time and doing that, joining us. And, you know, I really hope that, you know, in a year we're going to be doing the 2-year update and checking in and hearing all the awesome updates then as well.
Yeah, let's mark our calendars. 1 more year, see where we've grown from here.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Ashlyn, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you to our listeners for indulging your entrepreneurial appetite with this episode of Friends of FEADies, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner ISET, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. If anything we have discussed today has ignited an entrepreneurial fire within you, but you're not quite sure how to get started, or you're craving mentorship and coaching to help grow your business, please reach out to us at feed.ca. That's FEAD.ca. Connect with us on social media. We're sprinkled all over the digital landscape, and our team is ready to provide the mentorship and coaching you need to flourish. At Feed, we're here to empower women in the agri-food industry, so don't hesitate to reach out to us to join our vibrant community of foodpreneurs. Until next time, bake those dreams into reality, stay hungry for success, and continue to nourish your entrepreneurial spirit with Feed. Bon appetit.